Hey everybody, it is Gordon Majak here, back with another episode of Timeless Pop, Rock, and Soul. And what a day today, huh? So I woke up this morning and I thought I had a pretty good idea of the first song that I wanted to play today. But then I sat down to have my morning coffee and I started reading all the 9/11 tributes there on Twitter, and I just got pissed off, and it sort of took my mojo away from the other song, and I thought, I need to go in a different direction with this musically. So I started thinking about that, and of course it only took me a minute or two to come up with something that I felt really great about, and that's the one I'm going to share with you. Now the thing of it is, though, I'm going to keep this really short and sweet today because rather than making any sort of personal or political commentary on how I feel about 9/11 or life in America in these times, I'm just going to let the music speak loud and clear, which it certainly will, all on its own. And that's what this is all about after all, right, folks? It's the music. Musically, though, what I will tell you is that, as I have mentioned several times here on the channel, 1974, like so many other incredible years, I suppose there in the 60s and 70s and maybe into the 80s as well, there was just so much great music coming out. It's just unbelievable when you go back and look at the artists and the albums and the songs that came out. And I'm just picking 1974, for example, because that happens to be the year that this song came out that we're going to hear. And even though 1974, just an unbelievable year for music in general, I will say all these years later, I have no doubt in my mind that this record that we're going to hear, this album, was easily one of the best albums of that year, 1974. And I'll even go a step further and say if you take the whole 70s decade, and we're talking about pop rock albums and progressive music, I'll say this album's even in there for one of the best albums of the decade of the 70s. And finally, I'll even go so far as to say this artist, who you guys know I love these guys, one of my favorite bands, I'll even go so far as to say that this particular artist not only has this album, but another album, two albums in my all-time personal, let's say, two in the top 20. How's that? Two albums by this artist in my all-time top 20 albums. Who is it? What is it? Going back to 1974. It's my guys, Supertramp, Crime of the Century. There they are. This particular song written by both Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies. And apparently this collaboration felt pretty strongly there within the ranks of the band. Apparently the band themselves thought that this particular song was the best song on this album, and that is saying something because, man, there's some great stuff on this album, and that's why it rightfully takes its place easily in my top 20. It's probably even higher than that. Supertramp, Crime of the Century there from 1974, but this song, as I said, a collaboration between Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies. The last song on the album, and if my memory serves correctly from when I saw Supertramp in concert back there in the 70s, both on the Crisis What Crisis tour and also on the Breakfast in America tour. If I'm not mistaken, they closed the show with this particular number, the title track of the Crime of the Century album. So that would indicate, and apparently, a certain feeling within the band that this was a pretty important song to them. I am going to let the song tell you the entire story. Presented without comment, it is Supertramp from 1974, the title track of that incredible Crime of the Century album.
Read all about their schemes and adventures. Yes, it's well
just ridiculous. Every time I hear this, I'm always reminded what an incredible drummer Bob Siebenberg was back there, man. Just swinging that big fat groove as he does every time. Supertramp, the king of the dynamics, man. What a beautiful, progressive, dynamic song. And they come busting out of nowhere with this one in 1974, setting the table for that run there through the 70s and early 80s that they had. And yeah, this is the one, man. Closing the show, making that final statement. Yeah, quite an auspicious statement there by Supertramp in 1974 with the Crime of the Century album. Let's give full credit there where credit is due. We have Rick Davies on the keyboards and vocals. We have Roger Hodgson on guitar and vocals. We have John Helliwell working that sax there like he always does. Some super tasty saxophone work. Bob Siebenberg on drums, as I mentioned, and of course, Dougie Thompson on bass, man. That is the group right there, Supertramp. Those five guys created some real magic, and they didn't waste much time back there in 1974. Pretty powerful statement to close out an album, as I said, that sort of landed on the scene there, and it was like, whoa. Who are these guys? And they just kept going from there. Supertramp, the crime of the century. Rip off the mask and let's see. Okay. And there's you, and there's me. Okay. I will see you tomorrow, folks. Supertramp, man. That one cuts deep, doesn't it?